Now, when you said that, the people who lost their jobs, some of them have been unemployed for 10 years, are you trying to shirk responsibility?
Absolutely not.
Because some people will say that we did go into a recession. The last 5 quarters, we're yet to come out of the recession. In some sectors, things seem to be improving. But as a result of the recession, quite a number of people lost their jobs because companies were downsized. And those people have not been unemployed for 10 years.
Absolutely.
So the question is, how do we then, because right now, we're still, yes, things seem to be stabilizing, but we're still in a recession. We're yet to see the economy, record positive growth, as it were. So what do you think? What are the solutions the government is providing for those people who have lost their jobs as a result of the downtime that the economy is experiencing?
Yes, and let me qualify what I said. I said that we have some graduates who have been unemployed for more than 10 years. There are some young people who have never had a job. They did everything right. They went to school, they got a degree, they maybe did NYSC, and they have never had a job. We've never been able to absorb them. That's a different category of people to people who had a job and lost it maybe in the last 2, 3, 4 years. Having said that, yes, the acceleration in job losses occurred in the last 2 years, but actually, if you look, many industries have been contracting. But let me speak to what government is doing about that. We've got to reposition our economy and have sustainable growth. If the growth falls off because the oil price falls, then it's not sustainable, because the oil price can fall at any time. And so what we're doing is trying to make this economy productive, and that's on 2 fronts. One, as I keep emphasising, is the issue of infrastructure. What are the things that have held us back? What are the things that stop factories from opening? What are the things that stop us from extracting some of our solid minerals? It's power. It's infrastructure in terms of transportation, roads and rail, it's airports, it's all the things that we need to become more productive. And then added to that is what we call the soft infrastructure. That's the work that the Minister of Trade, Industry and Investment is driving, ease of doing business. In the past, Nigeria's pitch to the world was, we're big. We have 180 million people. We're a huge market, come and sell to us. And we thought that that would be enough to attract investment. We found it's not. Because what companies were doing was go and locate in Ghana, where it was easier to get a business permit, power was easier to get in terms of ease of doing, and then export under ECOWAS, where we have open trade doors, to Nigeria. Now we're competing. We're competing for investment. We're competing and saying to these companies, look, we're serious about infrastructure. We're serious about sorting out the roads. We're serious about sorting out power. We're serious about sorting out the ease of doing business. Come and open factories, come and open businesses in Nigeria, relocate to Nigeria. And government has to signal that. One of the big problems, and I spent many years, in investment banking, talking to investors. They would come, they would look at Nigeria, and then you'd hear from them we've decided to do Ghana, or we've decided to do Cote d'Ivoire, or we've decided to do Senegal, because it was easier to actually produce there and move goods by road into Nigeria, or fly goods in, or by sea. Now we're competing to create those jobs to resolve this situation permanently.
Speaking about banking, there are those who, I still hear them say, they say the TSA, the way we implemented it, affected or contributed largely to that 3.7 million jobs that were lost in 2016. Do you think that the way we went about it, we should have done it in phases?
No, I think that there are 2 issues with the TSA. It was actually implemented in phases. The CBN, under the previous CBN governor, had actually made some adjustments to the risk weighting of public sector funds to make them increase the reserve ratio for public sector funds. So really, in theory, that the impact of TSA should have been neutral on the banks, because they weren't able to lend as much of the public sector funds anyway. Now, did that contribute to job losses? How much business was really being done with federal government in terms of how much business, how many jobs was that really accounting for? And the question we should ask ourselves is, what was the cost? Because what was happening was that government had, say, ₦1 trillion placed in banks. The same government was borrowing the same money with the other arm from the banks and paying interest on it. That's not banking. And anywhere in the world, if you go to America and you get a payment from government, it's the Federal Reserve. If you go to the UK, it's the Bank of England. It's only in Nigeria that every single agency, and some agencies had 40 accounts. Okay, and so that's not real banking. Banking is lending to you because you want to buy a car, not taking money from one government agency
and that's my next line
and
of
lending to another.
So has anything changed in terms of how banks perform their core functions? Access to credit is still a challenge. SMEs don't get these funds.
Yeah.
What's going on?
Well, banking has a number of challenges. Of course, with the downturn, the volume of non-performing loans has increased, and of course that constrains the ability of banks to lend. And one of the things government is doing about it, and we're working very closely with the central bank, is quantifying how much government owes and trying to find a solution. And by so doing, if the central bank have agreed, we're planning to issue some promissory notes because some contractors and some businesses are actually owed so much money by government over the years that they're stifled. They just can't operate anymore. So
we're going to put a ceiling in terms of how long it will take government to pay private contractors?
Yes.
How long is that?
But the thing is, what we've first got to do is identify how much does government owe. There were no records when we came in. So we've gone round all and it's a huge number. It's discos, it's oil companies, it's salaries, it's pensions. Government was owing quite a lot. So we're trying to quantify that and draw a line under it. Now, by so doing, we will improve the non-performing loan ratios of the banks, and that should enable them to begin to lend again. But having said that, we've also, remember, done a number of interventions specifically for SMEs. We've got the Development Bank of Nigeria going. We're just waiting for the National Assembly to approve the funding. And once they do that, they're going to be pushing money out through microfinance banks and through micro lenders at lower interest rates that will trickle down to SMEs.
Is it going to be long-term loans? Because many of them are usually short-term.
That's one of the things that DBN is addressing, because much of the money that SMEs, and SMEs are the biggest part of our economy, incidentally, it's very short-term money and it's very expensive.
So how does all this come together to try to work for a reduction of interest rates?
Well, the Development Bank of Nigeria will be lending through SMEs at subsidised rates. So basically, they will lend to the to their wholesale bank. So they will lend to a microfinance, and the microfinance is allowed to put a fixed spread onto that amount and on-lend to the individual. So the impact is a lower rate.
So what happens to the commercial banks then? But it's because they're still lending at 27%?
They'll have to compete. You see, the thing is with the commercial banks is the commercial banks actually don't want to lend to SMEs. They don't have the capacity to credit score SMEs at the moment. The whole collateral issues around SMEs. SMEs, remember, are fairly seen by banks as high risk. They don't want to lend to them. They want to lend to the big companies, or they want to lend to government. And the central bank has tried extensively to try and encourage banks to lend to SMEs, but there's a limit to how much encouragement you can do. So what we've done is we said we need as government to intervene, which was really what gave rise to the Development Bank of Nigeria, which is focused specifically on SMEs and providing long-term loans. And it's a model, and we're being supported by the German Development Bank. They have, the German Development Organisation, they have done this successfully in a number of countries, including Turkey, where they really focus on SMEs, provide short-term funds, and all of a sudden, low-cost funds, and all of a sudden, those businesses, those small businesses can buy a generator. I shouldn't talk about generators because we should be solving power. Let me use a better example. Can buy some more equipment, can rent a bigger premises, and pay off over a longer period of time. And it's been very, very impactful.